on, guys? It's Ryan Smetzer, and welcome to another episode of the Ryan Chats With podcast, where I get the cool opportunity to have some great conversations with movers and shakers from all walks of life. Now, I have been looking forward to this interview in particular for several weeks because we're coming up on the weekend of the big game, that massive matchup on the football gridiron. Well, one of my favorite memories growing up before we watched the big game was gathering up with my family, sitting down on the couch, maybe getting a quick nap in, but also tuning in to channel number 66, Animal Planet, for another massive gridiron sporting event, the Puppy Bowl. And in order to talk about all things Puppy Bowl, I wanted to get to the source, the man who has been the referee officiating the Puppy Bowl for over 12 years for Animal Planet, and that's Mr. Dan Schachner. Dan, so great to have you here on our podcast. Thank you for chatting with me today. I want to know, what is the story of how you got reeled into this thing? You know, how did you get pulled into refereeing a sporting event where dogs run around and play football for several hours?
Yeah, so the network knew me. Animal Planet knew me because I'd hosted for them for a couple of years prior. But about 12 years ago, they needed somebody to be the referee for this Puppy Bowl, which had been growing. At that point, they were at Puppy Bowl number 8. So yeah, doing it about 7-8 years, they needed somebody to be more of a spokesperson and not just a sort of a mannequin standing there. So they had a round of auditions. I had a couple of rounds, and yeah, they brought me in, and it worked out. And 12 years later, here I am. It's pretty great opportunity.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember, growing up and watching this over the years. It's become kind of a tradition in the family to turn it on, especially as we're, leading into the big game and everything throughout the afternoon and evening. And, it's always just such an awesome tradition for a lot of families. You kind of feel like a lot of people reach out and they're like, hey, thank you for doing what you do with the Puppy Bowl. Our family gets to watch it together all the time.
That means a lot. And I hear that a lot, but it's always just so heartwarming because, if you think about Super Bowl Sunday, it is very much a family gathering kind of an event. The day itself, it has been historically, marking sort of the end of the football season, the start of the kickoff, right before spring. We start thinking about spring. It's sort of this great midwinter, late winter activity. And the Puppy Bowl just fits right in there because no matter what team you're rooting for on the human football side, there's really no hero and enemy or good guy, bad guy in Puppy Bowl. They're all winners. You get behind both teams. You want them all to succeed. So, and I've had people, as old as 90 years old, as young as, babies say that they love it. And again, that's not something you're going to see necessarily with the Super Bowl. This really is an all family appealing kind of affair. So it's awesome.
Yeah, and then obviously, too, there's the awesomeness of the puppies getting adopted at the conclusion of the Puppy Bowl. Do people reach out to you as well after adopting those puppies? Do you hear some of those full circle stories over the years?
It's kind of great. It's really great. I get to follow them along because, as you might know, most dogs, especially if they're Puppy Bowl dogs and have that little bit of, pedigree on their resume, they will start Instagram accounts and they'll be sort of instant famous just because they were on the Puppy Bowl. Now, if they score or get voted MVP, most valuable pup, that elevates them even higher. So it's been pretty great to follow these guys on Instagram in their forever lives after the fact. And, that's really where it begins. The Puppy Bowl is awesome and it's a celebration, but their life really begins since they are babies once they get adopted. So it's incredible to watch. Now, having done this 12 years, I can't even recognize some of the early puppies because, they were this big, and now imagine a dog 12 years later, 10 years later, they're unrecognizable. So it's great to watch. We'll have them back for Old Timers Day. Sometimes they come back and they coach from the sidelines or something special. We get to do a Where Are They Now segment on them and catch up with their lives. So yeah, it's great to watch it, and year after year that just multiplies and multiplies.
Yeah, and I imagine too what's even cooler about that is obviously your kind of reunions with the dogs as well after several years, being able to see them again after spending, several hours with them there on the field.
Not just hours, days. It actually takes days to film the Puppy Bowl. People think that it's like this quick live event or live to tape event that we just shoot as it happens. But in reality, it takes days to construct it. The safety of the dogs is paramount. So of course, we have vet techs on staff, reps from the Humane Society, animal handlers, people from the rescue. There's a whole crew there, and you can't. And sometimes I wish they would zoom out on the puppy bowl frame. So the action is great on the field, but the action just around it is even more interesting in some ways. Like you've got 20-something camera people, you've got, of course, the sound people, the prop people, the crew, the reps, as I said, from Humane, but it's really important that we keep them safe and that the puppy play remains that way. So we have to rotate them in small bunches, which is why we can't really shoot it all like as quick as you see it on TV. We got to have our small breeds in the first quarter. That's when you're going to see your Chihuahuas and your mini poodles, etc. And then by the time we get to the fourth quarter, which is sometimes a day later, it is, the baby Great Danes and the baby sheepdogs. They're still babies, but compared to the baby Chihuahuas, they're giants. So we've got to kind of keep them separate for their own safety, and that's part of the reason why it takes so long to shoot it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think people expect it to be this thing where it's just like they just release the dogs all into one big room. And I'm like, I feel like that would be a little bit of a challenge for Dan to kind of maneuver throughout that filming.
Yeah, for sure, to maneuver and to keep track of the scoring, because yes, it's one thing like watch where you step. You don't know because you're much taller than these little animals, but that's one part of it. The other part of it is keeping track of the scoring, keeping track of the penalties, making sure that they're safe. Yes, I have a whole staff. We have a whole staff on board to help out with that, but a lot of the play calling is me in the moment, and I need help. That's why we have 20 camera angles so we can catch all the action.
Now, do you sit down year to year and brainstorm all of the penalties and things that take place? Because I think that's honestly like one of the most iconic parts of the show is sitting there and hearing some of those penalties that you toss the flag out for, and you're like, did he think of that? Because that's genius.
Thanks. That's super nice of you. Yeah, we're always inventing new ways to say, the easiest, most classic one is pause interference. It all began with that pun. Pass interference, pause interference, right? And then you grow from there, because you can't say pause interference all day long. It gets boring. And you also, puppies will surprise you, and they'll think of brand new ways to, challenge you. And like, you'll see puppies do things that, obviously, A, humans wouldn't do, but B, that puppies have never done before. Puppy Bowl 11, for example, up until that point in time, we didn't know puppies could kick the balls. I mean, we'd seen them kind of like touch them with their paws, but not actually kick into the end zone. Amazingly, puppy Shyla, I'll never forget her, sheepdog, kicked the ball into the end zone, and we were like, we stopped, we watched the tape, and we were like, okay, you know what? That's a field goal. That counts. And ever since Puppy Bowl 11, dogs have been, or we've been recognizing when dogs can. So it's like they're always teaching us, what they can do within the parameters of the game, and sort of stretching those boundaries, which is kind of crazy to watch. So yeah, pause interference. We can also say now puppy rumble. We can say dog collar tackle. We can say unpuppy-like conduct. We can say roughing the pupper. There's 1,000 different ways to say essentially the same thing, which is when they're getting a little too rough with each other. That's one set of penalties. The other set of penalties is like when they're doing the opposite of that, when they're just sitting around doing absolutely nothing, like napping on the, so we'll call it like illegal siesta, or excessive slumbering, or couch potato, or wallflowering, little ways to like, and we've even elevated that one. This is a way that that the penalties have developed. Wallflowering just used to be a penalty, right? Just sitting on the sidelines, and then I'd come over and try to encourage them. Now we have elevated that to where they will actually get rewarded and highlighted in an award called the Underdog Award. So in addition to naming an MVP at the end of every Puppy Bowl, which America votes on, you watch the game, whoever you love, you vote for, and then we crown them.
Yeah.
We also have America vote on the underdog, the dog that is doing the least. And we give them some love too. I mean, all of it, obviously, it's all in good fun. It's just to showcase, like, no one's taking this seriously as a sporting event, except me, maybe. The dogs certainly aren't, but I am. But I think most of America hopefully is watching it and like just loving all the variety of things that dogs can do. So you're going to get the action, you're going to get the sleeping, you're going to get the bathing in the water bowl, you're going to get the chewing of the pylons in the end zone. You're going to get, let's see, puppies doing what puppies do best, number ones and number twos.
There you
How many
go.
different ways can you say pee and poo, right? So like there's so many opportunities there. I guess this way to answer your question is I have to pick my battles because I can't call penalties left and right. I have to be very selective.
Yeah, because then you don't want to be like the evil referee that's just diving in there and just like penalizing every puppy the entire time. But there is the quirky and funness to, like you were just saying, all of the random penalties that you think of, on a year-to-year basis. Now, I'm curious too, what has been your favorite puppy bowl, I think, out of all the ones you've done over the last 12 years?
Well, okay, lots of highlights in 12 years. In Puppy Bowl 10, we actually got the White House, believe it or not. So at that point, Puppy Bowl 10 was still Obama. We had Michelle Obama help us with our coin toss. That was pretty incredible to be able to do that on the White House lawn. That was insane. I wasn't there, but dog reps were. But that was, if you watch Puppy Bowl 10, like it is, the coin toss is at the White House. That was insane.
Incredible.
We've had celebrities left and right. And then on the more, I guess, heartwarming side, the part that really sticks with me over the years is in Puppy Bowl 15. This is one of my favorite stories. We had our first ever special needs dog that was both, we've had special needs dogs on before, but anyway, let me tell you what happened. It was Bumble, who was sight and hearing impaired. Black and white, kind of like fluff ball, adorable dog. Sight and hearing impaired. Not totally blind, not totally deaf, but definitely, like really having trouble. Utmost safety while Bumble was on set. Let him do his thing. Amazingly, Bumble scored a touchdown. And then later on scored another one. And then another one and another one. And then what we started seeing was that America was voting for Bumble as MVP. Again, normally the MVPs, most valuable pups that America votes on, are the really flashy dogs. The ones that are scoring left and right. And Bumble was holding his own. We realized what was happening. America was getting behind this special needs dog. Anyway, you can see where the story is going to end. He was voted the MVP in Puppy Bowl 15, our first ever special needs dog. Of course, adopted right away. And, that's the best part, right? That's the real championship trophy because Bumble is probably a dog that would have languished a little while in a shelter or at least been overlooked initially. Because, people come in, they ask for puppies, they ask for cute dogs. And often if they hear special need, one special need, hearing would be tough enough. Two of them back to back, you're like, whoa. He was adopted right away. And the awareness of how, quote unquote, special needs dogs or differently able dogs can perform or act the same way as regular dogs was increased. So I think we did some good there and we continue to. This year, I'm proud to say we have 11 special needs dogs. So
that's incredible. That's awesome. Yeah, because I know that like I get to do each and every week like a Pet of the Week segment for our station through our Humane Society in the area. And what's amazing from that is, like you said, like you see a lot of, for lack of a better way to put it, the underdogs, the ones that usually stick around the shelter for an extended period of time, or they've been there for 8 months and they're thinking, all right, let's get them out on the air because that's our best opportunity to show them off. And hearing the stories then like 2 weeks later of like, hey, somebody came in and they adopted him and all of that. And you're like, that's amazing. Like it gives you almost an extended reason, behind doing it each and every year. And I imagine that's probably, a driving factor that, allows you to kind of take it so incredibly seriously too. Like you had mentioned, like everybody has fun with it. You have to kind of take it seriously whenever the cameras are rolling. But I feel like that motivating factor is probably, the fact that these dogs are all getting snatched up, right?
100%. You put it beautifully. Dogs, puppies especially, don't really have a hard time. It's no secret getting adopted.
Yeah, right.
That's the number one thing people ask for when they do go to a shelter. They're like, you got any puppies? Got any puppies? Got any puppies? And the reason you don't see many puppies in shelters is, well, duh, they get scooped up right away. You're going to see 90% adults in shelters. So with Puppy Bowl, even though I know it's Puppy Bowl because that's what's going to grab the eyeballs, but our bigger mission is to, cast a light on not the puppies as much, but the parents of the puppies. That, so many litters that we get that are part of both the events that I do. I do live events here. I do taped events, related to Puppy Bowl or even other types of dog-related events. In all of them, nearly every shelter that brings puppies to it says, well, yeah, we also have the mom. And it's sad because a lot of the times, whatever outlet I'm working with is like, yeah, no, we'll stick to the puppies. And of course, we get it. We know why.
Yeah.
But the bigger mission is that there's still a parent, a mom or a dad or both, hanging out in the shelter, and they may be there much, much longer. And here's the kicker. If you're a busy household, like I am, like you are, Ryan, like sometimes an adult dog is the best fit versus a puppy, right? Like you don't have time for the pee-pee training. You don't have time for the house training, the obedience training to give them 20 walks a day. And why that is a wonderful time and they're super cute, sometimes for people's lifestyles, an adult dog is the right fit. So again, our bigger mission is just to cast a light. And that's why, to bring it to the point of Puppy Bowl, when we finish airing, of course the dogs get adopted, but every shelter, and this year we're working with 67 different shelters across the country. Every one of them, year after year, reports an uptick in adoption inquiries of not just puppies, but of course the adult dogs, because they've been featured. So that's our big goal.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that so much. And I think for you as well, I see your career growing each and every year to where from the very beginning of you doing the Puppy Bowl, you're now, like you said, doing trivia nights and live events. And, you were on Andy Cohen's show over the weekend, those kinds of experiences. Did you expect when you first took on the job of being the Puppy Bowl referee to kind of have the exposure and almost, celebrity stardom that you have now? 12 years later?
I don't know how much of a celebrity I am, but thank you for the push. I feel like I'm in this job because dogs can't talk. And if they could talk, and hey, they're playing football, who knows? Maybe next year they'll play baseball, maybe next year they'll learn to talk, who knows? But puppies continue to surprise us. But I'm there as their sort of spokesperson, as their mouthpiece, right? They can't tell their backstories. They can't tell you how they were abandoned on the side of the road and scooped up by a Texas rescue and rehabilitated and brought to New York for Puppy Bowl. But I'm there to tell that story, right?
Yeah.
I'm there to tell you how many dogs are adopted and how many, how old they are and what breed mix they are. So I guess in that sense, I'm just lucky to be the human mixed into this world. It's been great to see the career grow. I just am doing it because it's so much darn fun, and I see the results and the way it affects people right away. A lot of times we put stuff out there, whether it be social media or a recorded piece, something curated that we've put out there, and you don't often see the results. But I know with the Puppy Bowl and anything related to it, it's like an immediate impact. People have a reaction to it, and it's generally very positive. And I guess it keeps me coming back year after year. Definitely.
There you go. Yeah. And I mean, your story is so incredibly inspiring too. Like you said, your goal is to just give puppies that voice and give dogs that voice. And I think, that's led to so much of an impact, like you said, on the shelters, on people going out and adopting not only the puppies, but the adult dogs. So, I'm just stoked to see where your career continues to go each and every year. And who knows, maybe we'll have the like you said, the Puppy World Series, the Puppy March Madness. Who knows what might happen down the road. But finally, too, I want to know, obviously this year's a big year because you guys are expanding to multiple networks. It's going to be on, Discovery, Animal Planet, TBS. So, it's almost going to be a majority of everyone's TV lineup is going to be Puppy Bowl action. What can people expect for this year's Puppy Bowl with the expanded growth there?
Yeah, it's going to be hard to miss us, right? We're on TBS, Discovery, Animal Planet, and streaming on HBO Max and Discovery Plus, which is amazing. We're thrilled. What can we expect that's different? So every year, without a doubt, we get bigger. A couple of years ago, we expanded from 2 hours to 3 hours, and we have no problem filling those 3 hours. The most amount of adoptable dogs ever, 122. This is not, they're not on all at once, of course, because I said earlier, can you imagine? We need a human-sized football field, really. And we
right, exactly. And you have to make sure they don't escape or anything like that throughout the whole thing. Right,
it has to be fenced in, and with all that absorbent grass, we'd rename it Poopy Bowl, not Puppy Bowl. Yeah. It would be like the most lethal offense you've ever seen. So they have increased the numbers, so we have 122. We have the Kitten Halftime Show, but that's nothing new, the Kitten Halftime Show. What's new besides the larger numbers is that we're proud to say that we had our first ever Puppy Cooper, a couple of little ones, trained with an actual NFL player.
Nice.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. Some of the Seattle Seahawks came along and trained Cooper, so you'll get to see his story and see the training camp during Puppy Bowl. We have our first ever Native American rescue called the Najee Foundation out in Arizona, who has rescued, rehabilitated a dog, and you'll get to see Inya, who's a Native American rescue, and we're glad to represent that part of the country. It took too long. We should have done that years ago. Oh man. The Kelsey brothers are, I guess, the big story of the human football because it's a brother situation. We've got 5 pairs of siblings playing against each other. I mean, in Puppy Bowl, like, yeah, we do their DNA test. Like, probably half of them are related. No, I'm just kidding. Like, no, we do have 5 sibling pairs playing against each other. So that whole like Civil War brother v brother thing is on with us. We have our returning favorites. You know, things like the slow-mo cam, the water cam, the pylon cam. Oh, also new this year, we have a red carpet for players. Ooh. So the team bus will pull into the parking lot and the players will get out onto the red carpet and the paparazzi will be right there to take pictures of them. And then they'll go into the tunnel straight onto the field. And that's kind of cool to see the whole behind the scenes as they approach the game this year. So that'll be great. And let me think. And listen, I can't predict that they'll all get adopted, but I'm pretty sure they will, so we'll get to see their their little adoption stories at the end. So that'll be great too.
That's going to be incredible. And I know I'm a sucker for the kitty halftime show, being that I own 2 rescue cats myself. So anytime that comes on, I immediately gather them around and say, "Look, guys, it's your friends here."
Are they into the TV? I know that some animals are and some are not.
It depends on the day, honestly. Like sometimes they'll bat at the fish on the screen and all that kind of stuff. But most of the time they just learn to ignore it over time. But whenever there are other animals on TV, you bet they're perched up on the entertainment center and watching. So they will be watching on Sunday afternoon. No pressure.
That's great. That's great. We'll try to do a great job for your kittens.
Promise. There you go. Awesome. Dan, thank you so much for hopping on. I truly appreciate it. And best wishes for an incredibly successful Puppy Bowl coming up this weekend.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate you giving us the time.
And what an awesome opportunity to get to chat with Dan. Such a sweet and kind-hearted human, really. To have such a huge heart for the animals that he interacts with on the Puppy Bowl, but also using his platform to really promote animal adoption and really loving on not only those puppies, but those adult dogs as well. Thank you again to Dan for jumping on to the Ryan Chats With podcast with me. And thank you again to you guys for listening and watching. You can catch any other episode of the Ryan Chats With podcast right now, wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, whatever floats your boat. Go check it out, and we'll catch you again for another episode soon. Take care, guys.